Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Ha! I forgot to bring us up. I didn't see the bar was open, folks, but I didn't actually turn the on light on, so nobody knew we were here. But I fixed that problem. So, alrighty, folks, we'll try this again. Welcome to the Above the Bar podcast. For those of you that are getting the opportunity to kind of jump on here and you follow us on Facebook and YouTube, you're sitting here going, "Hey, this is a day early." Well, you are absolutely right. We are a day early because I am going to make my yearly pilgrimage to New York City for New York City Comic Con, which that starts on Thursday. So I got to get on the train tomorrow. Let's go, fight through all the other stuff. But I did get new masks. So if you guys are out there and you're looking for the Above the Bar podcast stuff, make sure you go on to TeePublic and check that out, because I've actually got new merch with the new logo, and you can get a mask and you can walk around with my face on your face, and nobody will think you're cheating on anyone, even though my face is on your face. So there's a different way of looking at it. But podcasting. So this is what I do. This is what I enjoy. This is one of my passion projects, I guess you could call it. But I figure I get asked regularly, how do you podcast? What do you do? How do you get started? What do I need? How do I don't have time for this. So I went to somebody I know who's an expert on how to manage your podcast. She's coming to us. She's internationally known, and she's known to rock the microphone. She, right here with us, coming all the way from merry old England, from London, maybe. And I even, for those of you that are watching live, and I'll tell everybody else, I even bought a bottle of Pimm's #1. I was hoping Jeanette would be available to talk to us, and she would love it if she saw that I had a bottle of Pimm's. But I brought with us Miss Rose Marie Callender. Look at that. Hi, Rosemary. How are you?
Hi, Sean. I am well. How are you?
Good. See, and for everyone who's listening to just everything, and you can hear her voice, I'm just going to let Rose, as a regular old schlub from Baltimore, I'm just going to let Rosemary talk the entire time just so we can listen to her.
What is it about the British accent?
I don't know, because you know what it is. You guys make everything sound so much better. Here in the States, you do. You know what it is? Because here in the States, you've heard an American Southern accent before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard where a Southern woman goes, "Bless your heart"?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Oh, no. Does it not mean what it says?
Oh, God, no. It means, "Gosh, you're stupid, and we really feel bad for you." But you can't really say it that way. So when you hear a Southern woman go, "Bless your heart," that's just them going, "Wow, you're simple in the head."
Oh, no.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
thank you for that.
So, I go ahead and give that information up. So my thoughts here is, like, when, schlub Americans like us, we hear your English accent, you could be, if you're just like, you could make me feel like I've said something completely ignorant and be like, "I think she liked it. Whatever I said was all right." So that's how
I don't think we've got any of those terms. We might just outright say it or not say it at all, one or the other.
But I feel, nobody's as polite as the Canadians, though.
Hmm.
Nobody. Canadians have, like, polite down to a science. Like, they've got us all beat. So we brought Rosemary in here. Rosemary is a professional, and we're just talking about other random shit, has nothing to do with this. But Rosemary is actually a professional podcast manager. This is what she does. And I really felt like this was a subject that a lot of us needed to know more about, have a better understanding of, because I hear it all the time. "Oh, I want a podcast. I want to do a podcast, but I don't have time. I don't have this. I don't have that." And I've even thought about it, like, maybe I need a Rosemary in my life to manage what I'm doing, because I'm booked till January. We have
a good place to be.
I can't tell you how many people say to me, like, how did you get there? So Rosemary, once again, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a long time coming. I'm so glad we were able to connect finally.
It did. You guys should have seen the emails of back and forth of like, did you get my email? No, I didn't get it. I didn't get yours either. I don't know. Like me trying to figure out if .uk was why my email wasn't
It's
like,
fine. It's okay.
like somehow my email doesn't like the Union Jack.
Yeah, exactly. It just knows.
It just knows. But before we get too far into this, and Rosemary tells us all how this works with all the management side, we got to do the housekeeping. The bar is open. We got to do the important stuff. As always, first thing over my right shoulder, we have the big sign, sticker and a cause. This is what's important. If you've got something going on, you have a podcast that Rosemary is going to make so much better for you. If you have that podcast and you've got a sticker or you've got a cause that you believe in, buy Johnny a new bike. Probably it should be either this weekend or next weekend. I got to double check the dates, but one of our old guests, Sean Wicken, came to me and said, "Hey, look, we're putting together a show. A friend of ours' mom's in a bad spot. We're trying to collect $10,000 for a GoFundMe for her." I should let him know. So there's another one of those causes. I don't have a sticker for it, but we're going to support him. We're going to see what we can do for those folks because that's the right thing to do. Support those that support you, like support hose, like pantyhose, like support top or whatever they are. Support everyone. It's a joke. Work with me.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. It sounded good in my head. We did dark
Yeah.
comedy last week and I failed at it. So we've got that. The other side is, Rosemary, did you like your pictures this week?
Yeah. Why
Pretty-
wouldn't I?
Pretty engaging.
Yeah.
That's media by Dibs.
Oh, cool.
You haven't met Dibs yet, though. I have to
No,
introduce
I
you.
haven't.
Dibs
Yes,
needs you because then you can introduce him to a bunch of podcasters and he just spend all day making pictures for podcasters. As long as he doesn't forget me.
No, I'm sure he won't.
We-
But
we-
yeah, no, I love them.
And Media by Dibs is your connection for all things media, from logos or marketing campaigns to flyers and more. He's going to work with me. I'm going to do, the big stands that you see at like shows behind people. He's going to help me come up with a logo, and then I'm going to get one of those because we're trying. We're going to see if we can do it. Albany Comic Con is coming up, so fingers crossed.
The ones that you can roll up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, those would be good.
One with this mug all over it.
I'm sure it's delightful.
It is delightful. See, that was an English term of like, cool that you just found it. So the English version of "bless your heart" is, I'm sure it's delightful.
No,
that you just found it out. And if you like what Dibs does, folks, if you mention Belly Up to the Bar, he'll give you 10% off your first order and a free consultation. Not too shabby. You just keep bellying up to the bar. So do you like the bar so far there, Rosemary?
I do. I like the whole thing. I must apologize though, my lighting. Oh, it seems to have improved. But I apologize for my lighting. The light bulb's literally just gone out. So I'm a bit in the shadows.
Well, it's because you brighten up the room.
Oh, well, thank you, Sean.
See
I
that?
try.
That's it. Just brightening up the room. So I really wanted to get into this. So you're a podcast manager, and as you see scrolling across the bottom, she has a company called Hands On Virtual Solutions. It's the same for the .com, right? handsonvirtualsolutions.com.
Yes, indeed. I have both. Yeah.
So make sure you're checking those out. Make sure you're saying if you're thinking about it. But so tell everyone, because I even want to have a better understanding of it. What is a podcast manager?
Okay. Well, so I predominantly work with female entrepreneurs and I help them launch or start and manage their podcast. So I work with new podcasters and established podcasters. And what that looks like is, well, you're very familiar, Sean. So everything that you do for your podcast, I support my clients with. So that would include starting one. So, giving them the advice around what host I recommend, or, recording software for remote interviews, mic recommendations. People who book my full launch package get the full works. They don't really need to think about anything except recording So there's no Google searches, there's no scratching their head trying to work stuff out. I am there to answer all their questions.
Oh, I
And
needed you a
then
year ago.
for some of my sorry, what was that?
I said I needed you a year ago.
Oh, never mind. But look at you now. I'm sure it's been a journey. We'll come back to that probably.
Oh, yes. So they get everything from you.
They
It's
get
all
everything. Well,
what
not
about
everything,
what ab
but
well, hey, now. Well, what about is there anything that they don't get? I guess that's probably the better question is like what isn't in a package like that when it comes to getting ready? So because you're taking them from infancy and
Mhm.
launching them.
To birth, essentially.
Yes, from birth.
Yes.
I'm going to
Just to
birth
just
you.
to carry on the infancy kind
We
of
just
thing.
keep going here.
Yeah, we'll just keep going. But yeah, no, literally
Send me
from
some
what I like to
Rosemary's
say
Baby.
from idea to launch. That's kind of how I see it. So if they've got an idea, like you've been there, I've been there, I want to start a podcast. And then they might start Googling or they might start speaking to people and then realizing, oh my gosh, there's a lot involved. And a lot of people at that stage would be like, okay, no. And then it drops down the to-do list. But those that still want to persevere and work with someone like myself, we would, jump on a call. I've got a launch plan that usually covers 6 weeks. I can do it in 4, but 6 weeks is kind of the sweet spot. And yeah, just kind of I use Trello to map things out so they know what they need to do, what I need to do by when, that kind of stuff. And a lot of my launch clients, the most work they've got to do really is if I'm not doing the cover art, then figuring out the cover art for themselves. Like if they've already got a graphic designer on their team. But other than that, it's just buying the equipment, sorting out are you going to use Squadcast or Riverside or Zoom, whatever it might be, and then just get to recording. And I will manage everything else for you essentially.
Now, what about posts like Facebook posts, Instagram posts? You managing that too?
So I have done in the past. Every client's different. So my current client list is predominantly editing, as you can imagine,
Okay.
because that is the thing that takes
That's what
from
eats
the-
people up.
that's the piece. Yep, that is the piece that takes so much of our time. So editing, show notes, upload, that is my most popular package. But yes, in the past I've been known to schedule posts, do a bit of repurposing as well. I think I've been doing this now for it's been 10 months since I pivoted. I started out as a virtual assistant and then pivoted for 2021. So, I'm finding my feet, I'm finding what I enjoy. So, probably for 2022, I'll be streamlining a lot more of my services. Like, I'll probably drop transcription, for example, or use rev.com or something like that.
Got
But
you.
up until this point, I've done a bit of everything except for like monetization and sponsorships we were talking about before. Everything else I have had a hand in.
Well, now that's a sidebar thing in and of itself,
Mm,
the monetization. I've looked into that personally,
mhm,
and all the platforms that are out there that you'll launch from, whether it be Podbean,
mhm.
um, Stitcher, Google's got it now.
Spreaker.
Yeah,
Mhm.
any of those that are out there, they all tell you, Verbal's another one. That's a newer one, and they're all telling
Oh,
you, don't worry about it. We'll go ahead and set you up. We'll have you monetized in no time.
yeah,
Listen, folks, it's not going to happen.
it's a lie.
It's a it's a bold-faced lie.
Yeah,
They don't even love baby Jesus. They don't love grown up Jesus. They can't because that's a bold-faced lie.
yeah.
Listen to me. The people who put out money for podcasts, if you haven't figured it out, every podcast you listen to is MeUndies. It's what's the mattresses, Casper. It's these same companies. If you're
Mhm,
not hitting, I talked to a gentleman who I have a lot of respect for, and I was like, and he would be the kind of guy, he sponsors shows. And
mhm.
I said to him, I was like, look, man, my show's going. I'm getting like 7 downloads a week. I could really use your support. He goes,
Mm,
Murph, I'd love to help you out. Now remember, it costs him nothing. He
yeah.
goes, when you hit about 1,000 downloads an episode, let me know.
Mhm.
I'm like, 1,000?
Yeah. And that sounds so high, right?
And it really, we probably do about 30. And I can remember saying to somebody, man, I'm getting 30 downloads. And this is a gentleman I respect a lot. He gets 25,000.
Wow, per
And
episode.
Yeah, he's number 22 in the world.
Jeez Louise.
Exactly. And I said to him, like, I'm getting 30. He's like, dude, you're doing great. You're in the top 30% of all podcasters. I'm
Huh.
like, what? Because you don't, the numbers, if you didn't know it, folks, there's 1 million podcasts in the world.
Yeah, I think we're on like 2.6.
Is it
It
up to
just
that now?
keeps, yeah. It's probably more. It keeps changing every week.
And, but now that's a great point with all this, because the other number that I know, and unless this has changed, is most of those podcasts don't
Hmm.
make it past 10 episodes.
Yes. So about, again, this has been a few months, but maybe around the 600,000 aren't even active. Whether it's a case of they didn't get past episode 8, 9, 10, or maybe they just did a series of, like a mini series of 5
Right.
episodes. Regardless, it's probably about 600, 700,000. So that's a decent chunk
Yeah,
from that
it's
number.
and that's a huge, I mean, if you really think about
Hmm.
that, you're talking 2 point whatever million.
Hmm.
Only and then you start, and obviously that number is going to shrink as you keep growing
Yeah.
in episodes. So, folks, if you're thinking about this and you're like, listen to me, you're not Joe Rogan, you're not, you
Yeah.
know, Howard Stern after show podcast talking. None of us are,
Hmm.
unless you somehow have something magical about you and you're doing like maybe stand up comedy or something, where somebody goes, "You're really funny" or "You're entertaining." This is a grind.
Yes.
It really is a grind.
Hmm.
Like, so for you, by managing people, what's the biggest challenge after the first conversation? Because everybody calls, I imagine they're, Rosemary, I got this idea. I'm going to do a whole show on chicken sandwiches. That's all, every episode. Like, what is the real challenge when you talk to these people? Like,
Hmm. That's a great question. I think for me, though, so I've been in business for about a year, just over a year, and it's been a journey. And one thing I've learned is I have to pre-qualify people, because at the beginning I was getting on calls with a lot of people whose expectations weren't quite where I wanted them to be.
okay,
Whether that might be, like you just said, it's a grind. Podcasting is a long game. So an expectation might be, oh, how quickly can I monetize? Like, I
right.
want to monetize a month after launch, and don't get me wrong, there are some people who are quite lucky, opportunity not, they grabbed it. Yay! But that's not necessarily the case for
Need that
everyone.
as a soundbite right now. Is just you going, yay.
Yay! But yeah, so that's one thing. But I think in terms of the people that I jump on a call with, their challenges tend to be more around tech. So they're just
Oh,
really
really?
confused. Yeah, a lot of people are just very, I don't know if it's an online space thing, but like, how do I record remote interviews? Like, one of my clients today was my launch client. I now manage her on a monthly basis. One of her guests wants to do face to face. So she's popped me an email, Rosemary, how do I do face to face? So again, that's a tech. And
Right.
I've not experienced or had any clients who've done face to face. It's all been remote. So I've been trying to tap my own network. Do you do face to face?
So we've done a couple of face to face. We
Oh,
did.
cool.
We actually had here, because my studio is in my home
Hmm.
that's the name, the Above the Bar podcast, because everything sits above my bar. Um, but I actually had 3 drag queens in my home.
Oh, cool. I love a drag
And
queen.
we set it up. That's like, again, the whole tech piece. That was
Mm,
me figuring out how to not have the mics feeding back.
that's
What's
it.
what's the and a lot of it was, and if you know anybody who's looking, my recommendation, I wish they would sponsor me. I have nothing but positive to say about them. Zoom Audio. It's a company called Zoom Audio.
Okay, I'll write that down.
Write that down. So they run everything from what they call the H1, which I have
Mhm.
an H1. It's a handheld that you can do interviews.
Okay.
So they have their whole H series, which is all handhelds. So H1 through H8, and you can actually sit there and it's got the mic and you can walk around and do everything.
Hmm.
Their P series is all podcasting related.
Okay.
So me and you right now, we're talking on a through a P4, which has 4 XLR inputs, 4 headphone jacks, and it has a port that if I wanted to plug somebody called on my phone, let's say,
Mhm.
I can run from my phone to it with an SD card. It has um
Wow.
it has 4 sound pads to it, and you can record, stop, start, you can mute everything. It'll even run so like all these, for those of you who don't know what an XLR mic is, XLR mics have to have a power source going
Mhm.
through them. So this has I can run the power source through this.
Mhm.
If I was on a lollipop mic, it has an entirely separate switch to go from this type of mic to a lollipop mic,
Mm.
which are the ones we all see on stages and stuff like that. Um, this is the system I use because I do remotes. So I'll
Mm.
go out, like I was mentioning, going if I can, everything works out, we're gonna go do Albany Comic Con is what I want to do next. So I'll set that up for guests to be next to me, the whole 9
Oh,
yards.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, we can. If you have somebody questions like that, I've learned because
Yeah.
I lucked out. I had somebody similar to you in my corner,
Mhm.
but he had been doing it for 12 years.
Yeah.
So when I have tech questions, I have issues, I have comments, I need something, I pick up the phone and
Mhm.
I can just go, Herb, this is what I need.
Mm.
Like I was going to they have one called the P6 from Zoom.
Mhm.
Rosemary. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get this thing.
Was it a good piece of kit?
Yes. Look, here he is. Yes, I'm talking
Oh.
tech stuff.
Hey,
Herb,
Herb.
see, Rosemary's a podcast manager. You managed me when I started doing this, and you got all my tech together. But I thought, I was like, I'm gonna go buy this P6. It's gonna be amazing. 6 inputs. This is awesome. He's like, why are you wasting your money? He goes, you don't have 6 people in your home. I'm like, but it sounds really cool. It's got all these neat features.
Yeah.
You
Bit
know, just
OCD.
look, he's clapping for me. So we call him the Podfather also because he's been doing it for so long. I
Yeah,
can just
12
reach out.
years. Wow.
Yeah, he was there from the jump street and gets me. He helps keep me, in line and doing the things. But you know, this is something like with what you're doing. So you had to really weed through a lot of people at first. Like, how many people do you think right now, on average,
Mm.
are hitting you up and going, "Hey, Rosemary, I got this idea. I want to talk this," and you just go, "Contact me when you're at this point." Have you reached that level yet?
Mm, I think I don't know, it's difficult because I have maybe 3. I speak to maybe 3 new prospects a week. So, I'm not drowning in clients, but that's a good thing. Um,
Pretty good though.
and it kind of depends. So some people I might be like, no, because I've reached a point in my business where I know who I want to work with, the type of personalities that I want to work with. So regardless of what they say, it might be that I decide we're not the right fit. So there's that. But then the flip side of it is I've realized people don't read. So it's important for me that people have a look on my website and see what the investment is. But a lot of people don't see, or maybe they skim. I don't know what it is that human beings do. But sometimes when they get on the call, the investment seems to be a shock for them. So that's one sort of factor. But I think I just kind of explain what I'll do to help them. So, as we said at the beginning of the call, launch plan of 6 weeks. I use Trello. And because I've started my own podcast, the beauty of doing that is when, like even today, someone hit me up on Instagram. Hey, how do I get my podcast on Apple? And in my head, I thought, why is that not the first place you put your
Right.
podcast? But that's a separate topic. And then I just went over to, Apple Podcast and I picked up the link and say, hey, this will walk you through. So that's the other aspect to it as well. So when people start working with me, because I've now got the podcast, I can kind of direct them to the podcast and people have found that useful. But in terms of challenges, by the time they've met with me, those don't come up. I think if they decide to work with me, they feel the feedback I've got is that they already feel by the time they've, come off the call, feel a lot more ready, a lot more less overwhelmed, I guess. But definitely in Facebook groups, you do see people quite a lot, and it is usually the tech. Like, what host do I pick? What mic do I get? Should I get headphones? Should I get fancy headphones? And like you said, do I create a home studio? And it's all these kind of the practical stuff or logistical stuff, I guess,
The
rather
meat and
than
potatoes.
yeah. Yeah,
And it's funny
definitely.
you're talking about what host platform.
Mm.
Like, I remember, again, I'll use my own stuff for example. I was looking for a host platform, and I remember Herb saying to me, he's like, "Well, what's your host platform?" I'm like, "Huh?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
yeah.
record a bunch of stuff, and then, like, don't I just, like, hand it to Apple, and it just goes everywhere?" I didn't
Yeah,
understand those things, so I had
yeah.
to be educated. I went with Podbean,
Mhm.
and that was my choice. It was an ease of use for me.
Yeah.
But I get hit up now that I've been doing this for a while. I can't tell you how many times I get a message from company like, you wanna move your podcast to our platform?"
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, "No."
No.
I like, there's some good ones out there, nothing against them. It's just, and then I realized that my personal one that I use already dumps my stuff onto their platforms. There's
Mhm.
Media by Dibs. I love Dibs.
Hey.
Um, but they like that like this person who said, "How do I get my show on the Apple?" I
Yeah.
wonder what host they're on, because your host platform should already have,
Yeah.
um,
That's what I said
uh,
to her.
yeah, like if they're not already sending it,
Yeah.
there's a problem
Yeah.
already
Sh
there.
She'd taken a while to respond. I'm trying to limit my time on Instagram. I don't know about you, but you get lost scrolling, especially reels. So when she messaged, I'd said, right, 5 minutes, and she hadn't replied in that 5 minutes. So I haven't checked my phone recently, but in that time, I then just flipped over to Apple Podcasts. Here, this episode will really help you. But most platforms will allow you to connect. If not, go through to Apple Podcast Connect, and this is what you need to do. But this episode will walk you through it step by step. But
See,
yeah, I
now,
just thought, why is your podcast not on
yeah, why
Apple?
does it not automatically? Like, what is it? The 2 biggest it goes Apple, and then, is it Google or one of them, or like, and it's like,
Apple, Spotify now?
maybe
Yeah,
that's
well,
what
those are the top
Spotify,
three. Spotify and then Google. Those are the top three.
and
But
they're
not
those
all
weren't even good.
hosts, because I'm Libsyn and I recommend Libsyn.
Okay.
I love Buzzsprout, and then Podbean's my third one. I've just started using Podbean with a client. I love it. But Libsyn, for example, doesn't have a directory section with Apple in it.
Really?
No. So they've got Spotify, they've got Deezer, they've got iHeart, they've got that other one that takes forever. Is it Pandora? They've got about 5 or 6, but Apple isn't one of them. So with Libsyn, you would then go into Apple Podcast Connect and do it separately. Whereas
Oh,
with
okay.
Buzzsprout, I know they've got a directory section and lots of different directories listed. Um, and Apple is one, but when you click it, it will still take you through to Apple Podcast Connect.
See,
So,
what I liked about Podbean
mhm,
was you go to where their section is where you can have them all, and
mm,
it gives you step-by-step instructions, and it even
yes,
has a spot that says, "Click here,"
yeah,
and it's a copy of your URL or your
yes,
RSS, excuse me, your RSS. It's
RSS
a
feed,
copy of it, so you can just copy it and paste it right in.
yeah.
They Podbean for me has just been so
Mhm.
simplistic. And they even have like the one that's really, they even do and I don't know, and you probably know more about this than I do, but that section where if it's certain areas that you broadcast to will broadcast to 5 or 6 other small,
Other, mhm,
so they've got
smaller
all of it.
players.
They've got it all set up. It's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
yeah, no, I like Podbean, but yeah, it just kind of depends. And people, again, I use Facebook groups as an example more than my clients because I'll do it for them. But like if your cover art is slightly off, then that could be a problem with Apple Podcasts because they like it to be particular. So I
Yes.
thought, let me do an episode on this and people can just follow it. But you're right. Having those instructions within your host is absolutely crucial. But within Libsyn, like Spotify, you just hit add, and then it connects,
So that's nice.
and that's quite nice. But Apple Podcast is separate.
So if for those of you who hear me pouring and doing all that, this was a special drinks that I'm making just for Rosemary to be here. And
But I'm not
Jeanette,
there to drink it.
I wish you were, my dear. If you make it to this side of the pond,
Yeah, I'll let you
you
know.
have to come to Albany because that's Smallmany, or I'll come down to the city and we'll sit down and I'm having just special for her. And if Jeanette was here, she would be so proud of me. I'm having what is known as a 1 cup,
Yeah.
which is Schweppes, or not. I don't have Schweppes here. So I have lemon juice. We're in Albany, so I had to use Stewart's ginger ale. Why not? But Pim's #1 liqueur. And
That's a lot.
and then, did you say that's a lot?
I can't see your glass, to be fair.
And then a little, garnish it with a lemon. And then we're making this happen. This is a scary drink. Like, more Americans, if they knew about this would be a scary cocktail, because this shit just tastes like straight up sweet tea.
Yeah, and it just catches you.
Oh, it'll get you.
'Cause you just, especially on a nice summer's day, out
Yes.
in the garden or in the park or barbecue or whatever. But where's all your fruit? You need some fruit.
Now that was the other thing. I just put a lemon in there, but I just read that, like, you're supposed to, like, you can garnish it with
Raspberries and what's that green stuff? Mint.
mint. Well, see, I grow all that in my yard.
Next time.
We have complete, as we get into garden time now, we grew raspberries this year that were,
nice.
or blackberries big as your thumb.
Oh, wow.
So Herb jumping in here, he says Spotify's getting bigger by the minute.
Yep.
Apple is losing traction, sadly, as the others are focusing more on podcasts. I believe that this is probably the biggest thing. Question for you, Rosemary. What do you tell first-time podcasters when they are concerned about likes and listen? Many of mine in the studio want to be the next Joe Rogan right off the bat after 5 episodes in. So what's your thoughts on that?
So luckily, I am blessed with clients who aren't focused on numbers of any description. I do have a client who we launched in March and she's hit 10,000 downloads. But when she started out, no, that was not on her mind, her agenda at all. So she's quite chuffed with herself, as the Brits would say. But just generally, if I see someone, I hang out in Facebook groups quite a lot, so I kind of roll my eyes. They can't see me, so it's okay. And then, if I'm in the mood, I'll be like, it's not about that. It's about the content. You need to give value. You need to give, great content, and the rest will follow. But I know what you mean. There's a lot of people who, I even saw a post once where this guy was like, I launched 2 weeks, and I still can't work out if he was serious, but I launched 2 weeks ago. When can I leave my job? I want to monetize. And I had to just keep scrolling because I just thought, you're not serious. Please tell me you're just winding us up here, because I just don't understand how that's a serious question. But yeah, concentrate on the content and the rest will follow, most definitely.
And see, and I agree with that. And look, folks, if you're really thinking about this, I promise you can go check out Hands On Virtual Solutions, handsonvirtualsolutions.com. Rosemary's on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, you can find her on Instagram. On LinkedIn, she is absolutely
I'm all over LinkedIn.
she's all on some LinkedIn. She will reach out to you without any concern and talk to you about this process. And don't think, now this is my ideas. Don't think that your first iteration of your podcast is the only one.
Yeah.
I promise you, when I initially came up with the idea for my podcast, I was thinking, I'm going to have like this really like current events and like being a dad, and I'm going to get into this. And it was a neat idea, but then I realized that human interest was more interesting to me what are you doing? Who are you? What makes you great at what you do? Or why do you have the passion for what you do the way you do? That was way more interesting to me. And
Yeah.
I got better responses from people when I said, hey, I've got, to me, one of the most interesting, and not, please don't take this wrong, Rosemary.
It's okay. It's fine. I won't be offended.
But probably like as when I was first podcasting, one of the most
Yeah.
interesting people I ever talked to, and I love his name, was Dr. Reverend David Adamovich, who
Okay.
is who's 74 years old and still to this day is the world record knife thrower.
Oh, that's interesting.
And he does weddings in Long Island, New York.
What, doing the knife throwing?
He does it all, my dear. Like
Oh,
if you want
wow.
him to throw knife, he'll do whatever the hell you want him to do. And then and this was where I learned, ask your guests everything right away. We got
Yeah.
done with the show and he goes, forgot to mention, I own the world's largest collection of serial killer memorabilia.
Oh, at the
Well,
end, had you
I go,
switched your mics off?
yeah, we were done.
Oh,
Well,
you
that was
was.
before I
Oh,
learned about StreamYard and stuff like that. And I'm going, and I've never had a chance to get back with him.
yeah.
And he's like telling me all these amazing stories afterwards. And I'm like,
That's why. Just today, actually, I saw someone post something about top 3 tips podcast interviews, and he was saying just keep the mics on until you're, from the very beginning to the very end. Just keep the mics on because you have those great conversations at the beginning and at the end. So you've proven him right. But yeah, you should
absolutely.
reach back out.
Now you brought up something that, and yes, Nathan, when are you going to post a picture with you in the new shirt on, Nathan? I just hooked you up. I expect that you wear that all season long during fantasy football as I wear you out like a bad habit. Wear him out some more. And look, FY, back 12 years ago, it took him 3 years to get to 8K a week. 8K a week. And
That's
look, and
good.
this is what I tell people all the time, like, because of him, I have a lot of love for my friend. Because of his journey,
Mm.
it's made my journey easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get it in my head that, like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Like, I got excited the other day, like, randomly, I had 29 downloads. I was like, pfft.
Yeah.
Eh,
That's
so
that's
eh,
good though.
now you talked about editing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like, I'm not an editor. So this show, the way it goes out,
Yeah.
you and I talking is the way it's going to get posted. Um, I don't edit anything. I don't
Mm-hmm.
change anything. I feel like I want it to feel like a bar conversation. Like you and I, like you sat down at the bar and somebody looked over and goes, hey there, Rosemary, you do that podcast thing, right? Come here. And we
Yeah.
sit down and we talk about it. I want it to feel like that. What are like when it comes to editing, what are some of the things that people are asking you? Because you edit for folks. What are some of the
Yes.
things that they're asking you to do? And is there ever a point where you're like, stop, I'm not, we're done. This ain't a Yes album. We're not
Yeah.
going through this for several years to get it exactly what you want.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Okay, that's a brilliant question actually. And I laughed because someone came to mind. I'll share that story in a minute. But generally, my clients have no opinion on editing because I'm the expert. They just record it, they upload it to my Google Drive. I upload it. If they're on an uploading package, I'll upload it to Podbean, Libsyn, wherever it might be. And that's it. They wouldn't really know unless something really jumps out at them in an interview, like, I don't know, the postman rang the door. Like, if something was really poignant, obvious, then they might put in an email, oh, hey, uploaded the episode for next week, such and such happened. But generally, I will just pick it up and I have full reign
Oh wow.
to edit it. But I remember having a discovery call once with this lovely lady, and she basically, I think it's called content editing. So basically, she would provide a transcription and she would have gone through it, whether it's pen and paper, red ink, or highlight. And at the end of the call, I just emailed her and I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't think we would be a good fit, because it was like an hour-long episode. And by what she described, it sounded as though, oh no, she said it actually. An hour episode was then cut down to like 30, 35 minutes. And I remember suggesting to her, could we, if we were to work together, maybe we could have a think about how you could do a 40-minute episode rather than a 60-minute episode to then cut it down in half. So, yeah, as soon as we came off the call, I just shot her an email to say, hey, lovely to meet you, but no.
Now, can I ask, what was her podcast about?
I actually can't remember. I
Hold
actually
on.
can't. It was something quite niche. I remember that. It was something quite niche.
Now, how do you feel about that? That's a great. I don't mean to change directions,
No.
but so somebody came to me, and Rosemary and I talked about this. I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I'm not doing our normal Wednesday where we get our normal stuff because I'm going to NYCC. I love comics. I've always loved comics. I was the kid who you weren't going to put a novel in front of me
Mm.
and I went to Catholic school and be like, read this, because I was going to be like, you can eat it. I'm not doing it. And then my mother introduced me to comic books, and it was the Man of Steel run by not John Burns. Was it John Burns? I have to look it up again. But it was the Man of Steel run, and comic books became my thing, and I enjoyed it. And somebody said to me, well, don't do your human interest show anymore. You should be doing a show just about comic books. And they were like, because that's more niche. You know about that. Well, how do you feel about should podcasts, or should people just, like, I like to learn. This is my niche. That's why it's human interest. I don't know if there's any other genre or anybody else out there that calls it human interest, but I'm going to tell you right now, I know that the news does that shit, but I am coining it as the pioneer of human interest podcasts, because I just care about finding out about people. How do you feel about the extreme niche, or should people really do only niche? Because I have a thought on it and I want to get your opinion on it.
I think people should podcast on a subject that they're passionate about. Niche, sub niche, niche. whatever, but you have to be passionate about it. And I'm feeling your passion about, what you've coined the human interest, and meeting new people and getting to know what they're all about is interesting. It's fun. Like, even just hearing what you said about the guy, the knife throwing, he's done all this fantastic stuff. I would find that interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, because when would you have that conversation?
Right? Like,
You would never have that. Normally, you would never have
no,
that conversation.
at no point in your life. And and see, this was my fear with niche. And for those of you that are out there thinking about a podcast, please take a moment and reach out to Rosemary. I got to plug the Podfather Herb. You can always reach out to him in our network, the Earplug Podcast Network. Reach out and see what we've got going on here. But reach out, and Rosemary will show you how to do your show, how to make it happen with hands-on virtual solutions. And I know I keep mentioning it because her and I may need to have some conversation. Like, I reach a point sometimes where I'm like, it can feel overwhelming to do a podcast because I have a full-time job. I have a full-time family. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen asleep on the couch and went, oh my God, I didn't put out that Instagram post to let everybody know. Oh my God, my whole show is going to fall apart. No one's going to listen this week because I missed that. How do you manage that aspect? Because how many shows are you managing right now?
That's a good question.
Those of you that couldn't see that face, that was the face of somebody who was like, why y'all ask me that?
No, that was a face of, how many shows am I managing? About 6.
Listen to me, folks.
Yeah, about 6.
Hold on.
I wanted a YouTube as well as a podcast.
6 shows. I'm gonna tell you right now, as somebody who manages my own and keeps my own organized, to manage 6 different shows is huge.
Yeah.
That's I couldn't imagine. And everybody needs editing?
Yeah, those are all editing. One's video editing as well as pod
I can't.
and
And
video takes
you're doing
longer.
visual stuff for them, graphics and stuff like that?
No, 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 no.
No?
So
Okay.
they're all editing show notes, mostly show notes and upload. But so the bulk is editing. And they're all like I've got one client, their half an hour episode can take me an hour 10. But then I've got someone else whose hour episode could take me 4 because everyone speaks differently. There's some people, you know what? It's not until I moved into podcasting that I realized that we and we are and we, and we like and all those kind of words. Some people have got a better handle on that
Filler
than
words.
others.
They're
Yeah,
called
those filler words and just the pauses and repeat. It's the repeat words that kill me when they say I. It's like where do I cut that?
and
But yeah.
I lucked out. So that's one of those things that I think I do pretty good with it, only
Mm,
because of my 20 years in the Marine Corps,
mm,
12 of them were on recruiting, and I went to professional sales training classes where they taught you to remove filler words
nice.
instead of saying, like, so, like, the person was, like, coming maybe change the inflection in your voice a little bit, and that gives you time to think about it to present it
Mm,
in a different way.
nice. That's a good tip.
Yeah, so the inflection will change how you do it, and it's God, I could do it. Well, that's another thing. Even thought about doing a sales podcast, a whole thing on sales. That's the one.
I mean,
I'm gonna throw some
there's a
ideas.
lot of sales and
Uh,
businessy type
isn't there?
podcasts.
There's like a ton of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There, every one of them is going to tell you how to make $1 billion, and
At
all of
some
them,
point, yeah.
and all of them live out of their car.
Doing
They live out of
5
their
hours a week.
5 hours a week. You could make $1 billion. Well, I tell you how to do it, and I'm living out of my car.
Which one's more authentic?
Oh God! And now I say that, and my buddy who does 25,000 downloads a week
Mm,
is that exact kind of
mm,
podcast, but he's another Marine, and he's legitimately doing things where I'm like he had his first ever like own convention where people
mm.
came together and talk sales stuff. So he's legit.
Yeah.
Um, check out, that is Success Champions Network. I'll plug him. He's a good friend of mine. But that's one of those things. Like, so now this is the next question because we're getting, the lights are getting a little low in the bar. Everybody's got a little bit of a buzz. No longer are they playing the dance music. We're now into slow jams.
Mellow.
We're
Yeah.
mellowing it out. We're just slow jams. Ladies and gentlemen, getting ready to throw in the slow jams.
God, the voice.
My own father. People, God, I love my dad. My dad was a great man. Best salesman I ever knew. Greatest salesman I ever knew. My father used to say things like, "You can sell anything to anyone as long as they think they're getting a deal."
Yep.
I just
I
destroyed
agree.
every sales podcast out there with that one statement. Look, folks, make sure
Yep.
people think they're getting a deal. They'll buy any shit you think that you have.
Mhm.
And when people are like, "That's not true," I'm like, okay. So if I
Yep.
own the same exact car as you do, but I bought it a week after you did and told you I saved $1,000,
Yeah.
the first words out of your mouth to me will be, "Yeah, but when I got it, it was the best deal out there."
Mhm.
Whether it was or not, you have to defend yourself that it was the best deal.
Best deal at the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Just It's just what it is. So we've talked about a couple of ideas.
Mhm.
Can you tell me the most outlandish podcast that you've been like? Somebody came to you, like, has anyone come to you with a podcast? Not necessarily, like the lady who was like, "I need you to
Two.
fix every word that I say, erase the and make it to they, erase
It
him."
wasn't quite that bad.
You know? But have you ever had somebody come to you with a podcast idea that they were like, "So, like, I want to do this podcast on squirrels, just squirrels," and you were like, I'm not doing this. This is not content I'm addressing."
So I tend to work with business women.
So that's an
Um,
interesting niche, though.
well, yeah, I tend to work more with female coaches, so they'll have a coaching business. So I've not had any sort of outlandish requests. I've worked with a career coach. I've worked with a happiness coach.
What is
Lots of
a
different
happiness coach?
coaches.
What the hell is a happiness coach?
Happiness coach. I still work with her now. She's my longest standing client. So she will
Is that very
help you.
420? Is that very 420?
What does that mean? 420.
Um,
420? What's
what?
420? What?
What?
Have I showed myself up here?
No. I mean, I'm just wondering because we're gonna get into a minute here where we talk about like I'm gonna tell you my pissed story in a minute
Right. Okay.
and how that's so different between there and here. Um, you don't know like 420.
What's 420?
Weed 420?
Oh, no, I'm not familiar with that term, but it
No,
is
really,
not.
that's not an English term.
Well, I'm a bit sheltered.
I
So
know. You're not.
I've not heard it before. We might have something else
That's
for it.
interesting.
Like
But, like, when you said happiness coach, all I could think of was somebody, like, so you hold that shit up. Yeah.
No, there's no drugs involved.
Just the happiest I'm ever gonna be.
She
What?
helps you to live your happiest life, which usually involves saying no to the things that you don't really want to do. But that's a whole different podcast.
That's
But to answer your question, so I haven't had any outlandish clients. However,
however,
someone that I know has worked on a podcast. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called right now, but the hosts are married and they have sex on the podcast.
what? I said, "What?"
There's no children watching this
Wait,
program.
hold on a second. Let me see if I got the right button here. We go I don't know if that's the right button or this is.
That's not right.
I don't
That's not it either.
wait, hold on. Rosemary, you need you need to send me like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll try and find the
Rosemary,
I can't remember.
while they're are they giving advice while they're doing it?
I don't know. I haven't listened, but
Why have you not
so
listened?
I'm in a podcast managers Facebook group. Like we've
Where
all
this
done the same course, and someone in my network posted that that was one of her clients, and I just read the post, and I did think to myself, what would I do if that were me? I'm not quite sure.
is it a visual too? Like, I'm
No, it's not visual. It's not a
like,
VOD.
that's what I'm saying, like, my show's all like, we have the
No,
visual side to it
no, there's no video. Oh God,
and the
no.
audio side, and I separate the 2 kinda like, "Hey, if you can listen to us, on the visual side, congratulations. I've
Yeah,
thought about making this a Patreon thing, the visual side to it. Once the number and back to numbers again, if
mm,
the numbers ever hit like 5, 10,000 download, maybe, to see the visual side to it, it'll be a Patreon thing,
yeah.
but I can't imagine.
No, there's no video to it. But I know, like, even just today, I was editing and the conversation was so good. It was a normal conversation,
Right.
but I just know as an editor, I get quite wrapped up in the conversation to the point where I forget that I'm editing, if that makes sense, because the
No,
conversation
yeah.
is so good. So then to be editing that type of podcast, I just don't know where I would put myself.
I don't know.
I
That's
don't think I could
wild.
do it.
That's
But
wild.
yeah, apparently, I don't think it's the whole show, but even if it's a few minutes,
I
I
don't
just don't
look,
know.
if it's
And of
I
course,
don't
they hit number one, right, when they
oh, yeah.
launched because of, I mean,
Like,
because
just
more like a bit of sex.
just saying like, "Hey, in the middle of our podcast on advice, we're gonna have sex." Like, I have so many things I wanna say right now, and I just don't know what it's like, my audience, I just wanna be like, "Boo." Like, I
Sorry, you
don't
did
even
ask the question.
like, I don't even know where like, that's crazy.
It
Like,
is crazy.
it's a but you know what? It's got a very, John Lennon, Yoko Ono kind of vibe,
Yeah,
it
they are of that description, actually. I'm going to find it and I'm going to send you the
please do.
name.
I've got a
But I
list.
can see the point. I'm sure I can see the cover art in my head,
Well,
and they're just very
that sounds like a
free.
whole nother thing in and of itself. What could the cover art be?
No, it is very normal. It
Now
is very
that's a question
normal.
though.
I think they
So,
might be sitting on a bed.
like my daughter just redid our cover art. We just
Mm,
updated everything. It's me with my fedora. I love my fedora. I have many of them.
mm.
Matter of fact, there's one to my right. I just can't reach it right now. But how important do you think that is in the because the two things that I'm going to bring up, one thing that changed my podcast greatly, I think, but how important is cover art and naming of shows?
Super important. Super, super important because the cover art is, I like to say, people might disagree, but I would say the cover art's the first thing they're going to see. So, regardless of what podcast player they use, Apple, Spotify, whoever, as you're scrolling through, it's the cover art that's going to kind of get that person's attention, your new listener's attention. And then the name, they might also see the name at some point, social media, wherever it might be. So then you want that to really describe what your podcast is about. It's names are funny though, because you don't want it to be too long, but at the
Right.
same time, you want it to describe what your podcast is about. So yeah, I think for me, those are the top two things. And I've had people, like I spoke with someone a couple of weeks ago who slapdashed her cover art, I think in Canva.
Oh,
And
Canva.
and it was, it was fine, but it was more of graphic. It looks more like a social media graphic rather than a cover art. You
Okay.
kind of want it to stand out a bit more than a standard graphic that you would use on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it might be. So I kind of just gave her some tips, which she was really grateful for. But yeah, you just want it, and using bold colors if you've got a business, making sure that the colors are continuous. So if your brand colors are like
Green
mine are
colors.
blue, pink, stick to blue, pink. Don't then just go off and do black, gold, and green, because then you're a bit confused. But I would say those two things are super important. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing, if those of you that are listening to this, if you haven't heard it yet, it's consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency, like, I'm a sports guy. I love my Baltimore Ravens. Can't stand the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, but one thing I will tell you is if you look at any great sports franchises,
Mm,
everything about them, their coaching is consistent. It's the same
yeah.
coach year after year. Eventually, they will win a title because that person's system works out. This is what
Yeah.
Rosemary is telling you is um, Rosemary's Baby, which is so great. That's even a better name of a
Got the
podcast.
baby.
As you go into like birthing people's podcasts,
Oh
Rosemary's
God,
Baby.
we're sticking to this.
This is so great. I thought about that earlier when you said it. We'll go back to that. But one of those things comes out in this is consistency in what you're doing, consistency in what you're presenting, consistency in how you're doing it. If you're like me and you've decided I'm doing a human interest podcast.
Mhm.
I want to talk to people from different walks of life about what they did, how they got there, what makes them great. Next week, we're talking to Benny Anderson or Beanie Anderson, former Baltimore Raven football player, which we've had on before,
Mm,
talking about preseason. But this time we're talking about what's it like to go from college to the pros and be a kid
mm,
going from no money in your pocket to millions of dollar contract
mm.
and how that changes your life. That's what we're talking about next week. That's amazing to me. That
Yeah.
is such a like wow factor to
Yeah.
me.
That would be a good conversation.
And he's such an amazing guy. He's a high school
Mm.
football coach now.
Oh wow.
Football, like real football, like American football,
Yeah.
not like
I'm not that precious. I'm not a football
yeah.
person.
Again, another great English term. I'm not that I've got to do this because we're getting ready to close the lights on the bar, folks. I got to tell, and I've got to make Rosemary laugh because
You've done that throughout the whole
she's gonna
show.
she's gonna love this story. And there's certain things that you like certain things stick in your mind. They just don't
Mhm,
ever leave your memory,
mhm,
and no matter how just ridiculous they are. So I was a young Marine of 21, maybe 22. It
mm,
was 1997, so 21. here I am in Ibiza, Spain in 1997.
Wow.
For those of you who don't know what that means, that is the height of raves, bubble
Hmm.
parties, the bull bar in Ibiza. People are like, they would sell their soul to go hang out in this place in the
Party
90s.
Central. Yeah.
I mean, the the only thing hotter was hell itself because in April the devil danced in the middle of the streets. Amazing place. Still to this day, I imagine it's a pretty amazing place.
Yeah. Well, I've not been, but I've heard.
Oh, you gotta go. You and I
Yeah,
will
will
go.
do.
You and my wife.
COVID is
My wife don't yell at me.
COVID has scuppered my travel plans, but it's
What
on the list.
it's on. You got to go.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget. I was a young Marine sitting at met this young lady. She was with an organization that provided childcare
Hmm.
to people who were traveling, and it was like nanny services. Very like big money kind of a deal. So we're sitting there, and I'm trying to put my best smooth grooves on. All of 21, and everything's amazing for me.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, her friend came over, and I'm horrible, but she was cross-eyed. I'll never forget her. And she's sitting there, and then another Marine came over, and he was hammered, drunk off his ass.
Right.
And this is when I learned that certain terms don't translate.
What did you say?
I
What did
didn't
he
say
say?
nothing.
I was
That's a
going to say,
whole
what
nother
did
that's a
he
whole
say?
nother story that might be an afterwards comment that I made that almost started a fight in Toulon, France. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story where it
Another
almost started an
podcast.
international incident in Toulon, France between me and an Irish guy.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
and that one right there. That was the statement of where y'all know the one person always goes, "Hey, tonight we're not going to do blank." And I was the one that said, "Hey, tonight we're not going to do blank." And then I almost started blank. Yeah, but no, she looked over at me and she goes, "Ah, your friend is pissed." And I went, "He looks pretty happy to me. He's hammered." And I'm like, and she's like, looked at me with the RCA dog look. And I went, "What?" She goes, "No, pissed drunk." And I went, "Oh, that's a thing." Like, I had no idea.
Dear.
I had no, like, so pissed in the States means you're
It's
madder than a
angry.
bag of hornets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was
Yeah.
talking pissed drunk that he was just hammered. I was done.
Yeah.
I was
The
done.
terminology. I'm from Barbados, so I'm more familiar with the American terminology. But yeah, when I first came here at 16, it took some getting used to the words. Yeah. So
Now
I can
you're from
imagine your
Barbados.
confusion.
Now but you have what sounds to me like a very, not
Yes, I'm very
necessarily
British
Cockney,
sounding.
not a
Yeah.
Cockney accent, because it's not that hard and sharp,
Yeah.
but a very English accent.
Yeah. So I came really young. I came at 16 and no one could understand me. And teenagers,
Oh
they
yeah,
can be not so
vicious.
pleasant. And even the teachers could understand. And I just kept repeating and repeating. And yeah, I believe I made a conscious effort to drop the accent. But when I go back, or if I'm surrounded by people here, like I had a discovery call with someone last week and she's in Barbados. And then just talking to her, I'll slip back into it, or sometimes when I'm just telling my daughter off, it tends to come out.
So my wife will yell at me, uh, and she'll be like, so I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland.
Mhm.
If you ever get a chance, any of you, take a moment and Google Baltimore accent or Baltimoreese, or there's like a whole language on it.
Oh wow.
And up here in Albany, I'm kind of fine now. Like they'll every so often up here, because I'm so much further north, they'll say things like, "Are you from Georgia?" Listen to me. If you've ever been to Georgia, that
Not my
shit's like,
children.
"Hey, listen to me. Let me explain something to you." It's a very different kind of accent.
It is, yeah.
Um, my Baltimore accent, when I'm back home, my wife will yell at me and be like, "Stop talking like your uncles," because I will slip.
Yeah.
hard.
When you're surrounded by, I don't
My
know,
and I've
yeah,
got
by your people.
my people. I've got like, and I've got once I'm a moment in back home.
Yeah.
Look, here's my. See now, this is my wife, Rosemary. April
Hey, April.
can now maybe I'm curious. Now this we're definitely if folks if you're gonna ditch us now. Right now we've moved on. Rosemary and I are just having fun at this point. What do you call the first five? And I don't know what they call it in England. I really don't know what they call it over there. I don't know what they call it in Barbados. What do you call the first 5 years of school? Like you might have, like I went to Catholic school. They called it parochial school. You have different types of.
Primary.
So the first 5 years are
First
primary.
5. Yeah, primary.
Okay. So here
Hmm.
it's called elementary school.
Yeah, that's it. It's
You've
very
heard that term.
confusing. Yeah.
Oh, there's
But I never know elementary, middle, and
we were gonna
oh,
end.
hey, Jeanette.
Jeanette, you missed it. Look at it, Jeanette. I did that for you, Jeanette. So Albany is the only place I know of that Andrew, the first
So
5 years of
high.
school are not high school. Only in Glens Falls is it high school. Whack job. Um, see, look, there, my wife did it. Read that for me.
Elementary.
See, you even said it the right way. Read it how it's spelled, though.
Yeah, why is it IE?
So here in Albany, they call it
Oh.
elementary school.
Huh? Why?
I promise you.
That
I
sounds very
don't have a
French.
clue. Here in Albany, they call it elementary
Elementary.
school. And somebody told me one day, did you ever meet Tim Sokol on any of the networking groups we belong to?
No.
So Tim's great. Love Tim. And we were talking about this. And Tim's like, they don't do that. They don't do that. I called on an episode my son's old elementary school.
Mm.
And this is a school recording. Welcome to, I'm skipping the name of it,
Mhm.
elementary school.
Yeah, that sounds weird.
Doesn't it? It sounds so whack.
Sounds
Look,
weird.
there's my bride. Welcome to Albany. Dibs is on and didn't go to school in Glens Falls. How dare you? Whatever. You're still close enough. I love Dibs. So
Wait, so back up. So
okay,
it's elementary and then middle school is
middle
age
school.
11? Is
Um,
it? What, age
it
10?
can be. So it depends upon the school district. It's 6 to 8. Like where I went to school at, it
Oh.
was 6 to 8. My sons where they go to school at, it was 7 and 8, and now it's 6 to 8. I'll really blow your mind. Where my niece and my nephew go to school at in Pennsylvania, it's actually 6 through 9
Oh, this is very confusing.
because only because their particular one is because it's the largest high school in the state of Pennsylvania. They graduate 1,100 kids a year.
Oh,
School's
wow.
so big. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Okay. That's a lot of children.
Yeah. Oh, look,
Andrew didn't have middle school.
he didn't have because Andrew's special. K through 6 and high school was 7 through 12.
Okay.
See,
And
this is why we
then
need Jeanette for this. Plus, in England, we have
yes.
sixth form,
Yeah.
which confuses the heck. What the hell is sixth form?
Yeah, that comes after
What
your
is-
high.
I'm
So 16, yeah.
What is
So when they've finished high school, your high, I think.
so high school's 12th
After
grade.
your yeah, don't say grades. What age is high school?
So
Finish at
high school,
16?
like I graduated high school, you were going to be anywhere between 17 to 18 years old when you graduated high school.
Oh gosh, that's older. Okay, no. So here is 16. And then you can go in, then you go into sixth form, and then you go into college, and then you'll go into university. Whereas our university is your college, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just the whole world is messed up, frankly.
Can't they figure this shit out? Maybe that's our next podcast.
Yeah.
Me and you figure the world out.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards.
It's very confusing.
There's so much out there. This has been so much fun.
It has.
I've had a blast, and I'm so glad Jeanette made it. Dibs was here. Everybody was here, and everybody send all your love to our Jeanette. She needs it right now. Not going to get into it, but just send her all your love. She deserves it right now. As I keep saying, hands-on virtual solutions. This is going to be your spot. If you're thinking about doing a podcast, you can always reach out to me at any time. Reach out and I've got you. I'll help you with the tech stuff, because if I don't know it, I'm just going to reach out to Herb and I'm going to say, Herb, what's the tech side to this?
Yeah.
And there's another guy, Nick, that I know. We'll figure it out. I'll be connecting. Look, we've already got one for you.
Amazing.
I don't want to get into what your pricing is. If anybody sends me a message, I'm not going to tell you. If you want to know what that shit is, go have a conversation. That's not my business. My business was to tell you that if you want to go ahead and stop sitting around saying, I got a podcast in me, get up off your ass, go do it. If you think it's that easy, just because you see me doing it, it's a little bit more to it. Trust me. Ask my wife. She will tell you. That's my biggest fan is my wife. I love her to death. I can't say enough good things. If it wasn't for her, I sat in Hamden and Hall and was like, yeah, maybe I'll. And she was like, here you go. Here's your shit. Go do it.
Oh,
she knew I had it in me, and she goes, look, Dibs is already on your website. He's stalking you.
Oh, bless
the website when pulling info for media. Like, I can't. Media by Dibs, folks. He makes my show look that much better. So hands-on virtual solutions, handsonvirtualsolutions.com. Go on there. Check out Rosemary. You can find out about Rosemary's Baby. That's a whole nother movie reference if you haven't figured it out.
Totally separate topic.
Totally separate topic. But we did say she birthed a few podcasts.
Yeah, we did. We go down that road.
And look, Dibs, Cheryl is like my wife. Like, my wife and Cheryl could high five each other on getting us to go do this shit. What other things, anything else you got for us here? Like, anything I'm missing, anything that I'm thinking about here? Like, this has been so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, we can chat for ages, but
I love people that I can just sit with and just talk like this. This is my thing.
I like the concept of your show. I love it. In terms of, we might just meet in a bar. I happen to look over, and you've definitely nailed, even though I'm goodness knows how many miles away from you, that's the atmosphere that I'm getting. So yeah, this has been fun. And considering it's after midnight, I am very much awake. So you get a big tick. You've kept me highly entertained.
There's so many songs I almost just sang. Like, you have no idea. Like, when you said Across the Bar, I was about to go, always, forever.
Oh gosh.
And then when you said it's after midnight, I almost started saying, after midnight, we don't let it all hang out. So it's a whole different song.
Oh gosh.
So, don't disappear on me, because we're going to close this up.
Yeah.
We're going to pull the blinds on the bar. We're going to turn the close sign on. I do have to get some information from you because, as always, this is very important stuff. But one of the most important things is the guest always gets the last word. And what is the last word today for us?
Oh, okay. So you might have touched on this already, but my last words would be, if you're thinking of starting a podcast, the time is now. Don't have to wait. I know podcasting has been around for a long time and will continue to be around for a long time, but what are you waiting for? If you've got a topic that you're passionate about, just get started. There's lots of resources. Me, Sean, Andrew, lots of resources available to you. So just get started, but be prepared to put in the work for a long time. That's it.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.